Before you hear what happened, you need to understand what your life looked like the morning before it happened, because the story doesn't make sense without that part. You were 24 years old. You had a delivery job that started at 5:30 in the morning and a second job stocking shelves at night that ended around 11. You slept about 5 hours if everything went right. Your checking account had $11.83 in it, and payday was 4 days away. You weren't in a crisis. You weren't desperate. You were just doing what a lot of people do, threading the needle, making it work, getting through the week. You tell that story because you need people to know exactly how far the distance was between that morning and where this story ends. And you need them to know that the whole thing started with a completely random decision at a gas station that you almost didn't make. It was a Wednesday, October, the kind of fall day in Atlanta where it's still warm enough to sweat in a jacket, but the leaves are changing anyway, like the season is trying to argue with itself. You stopped at this particular gas station because you needed a water before your second shift. You went in there with a plan: water, get back in the truck, go home, change, get to the store. That was it. That was the entire plan. And then you saw the sign: Mega Millions. Tonight's jackpot, $20 million. You don't know what made you stop. You're not a lottery person. You'd bought maybe 3 scratch-off tickets in your entire life, and you think you won $2 on one of them. The lottery was never something you took seriously. But something happened in that moment that you cannot logically explain. Something just said, do it. Not a voice, not a sign from the universe. Just a quiet, almost bored little nudge somewhere in the back of your mind. Let me get 2 quick picks on the Mega Millions. You didn't look at the numbers, didn't care. It was $6 you would not miss because you were already missing it. You drove away thinking about whether you had clean clothes for the next morning and whether you'd remembered to pay your electric bill. The tickets were already forgotten. Just paper in a pocket. Just a random Wednesday. You worked until the store closed, and then another hour after that, finishing a section you'd been assigned. By the time you clocked out and got to your car, it was close to midnight. Your feet felt like they'd been filled with concrete. You sat in the driver's seat for a full minute, just breathing before you started the engine. One of those moments where your body needs to confirm it still exists before it agrees to keep moving. The notification said, Mega Millions jackpot winner, tickets sold in Georgia. And here's the thing, that should have meant nothing to you. Georgia is a big state. Millions of people buy tickets. You had barely remembered buying yours. But something, maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was boredom, made you reach into your jacket pocket. You scanned the first one. The app played that flat little sound that means you've lost and displayed, not a winner. Exactly what you expected. You almost put the tickets down. The app didn't play a sound. It didn't flash lights or show animations. It just showed text. White background, simple font. And the text said, this ticket requires validation at a Georgia Lottery Prize Claim Center. And below that, estimated prize $20 million. You read it once, then you read it again. Then you held the phone closer to your face like proximity was going to change what the word said. $20 million. The app was telling you that you have $11.83 in your bank account, still wearing the same boots you'd had on since 5 in the morning, had a $20 million lottery ticket in your hand. You laughed, not because it was funny, because you had absolutely no other response available to you. You did not sleep that night. What you did instead was research. For 4 straight hours, you read everything you could find about winning the lottery, what to do first, what mistakes people make, what the process looks like. And the same advice appeared everywhere, over and over, like the internet was trying to grab you by the collar. Get an attorney before you do anything. Don't tell people. Sign the back of the ticket, make copies, and whatever you do, do not walk into that claims office alone and unprepared. The paranoia was real. Every 10 minutes you were convinced the app had glitched, that you'd misread it, that there was a decimal point you'd missed, and it was actually $2,000 and not $20 million. You checked and rechecked. You went to the Georgia Lottery's official website and cross-referenced the winning numbers against your ticket by hand, number by number. They matched, all of them. Every single number. You sat there on your floor at 2 in the morning, looking at that piece of paper and you felt something you didn't expect. Fear, not excitement. Fear, because up until that moment, you understood your life. You knew how it worked. You knew what the next day looked like, and the day after that. And suddenly you were holding something that made all of that completely unrecognizable. $20 million doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes the entire map. You called out of work for the first time since you started the delivery job. First time ever. You told yourself you'd never do that, never leave people short. But you also understood that this was a situation that required your full attention. You had one job that morning, and it was to walk into an attorney's office and not make any mistakes. The attorney explained that Georgia allows lottery winners to claim their prize through a legal entity, a trust or an LLC, rather than in their personal name. That meant your name didn't have to go public. That meant you could protect yourself from what happens when the world finds out you have $20 million. You didn't hesitate. You said yes before he'd even finished explaining. The legal fees were $3,000. You want to let that sit for a second? $3,000 to protect $20 million. The attorney mentioned that. Said it in a tone that was almost dry. Almost. You signed the paperwork and tried not to think about the fact that $3,000 was more than you made in a month. But here's what you knew, and what those hours of research had made very clear. The people who blow lottery money, the ones who end up broke in 5 years, they're not people who were careless. They're people who were unprepared. And you were not going to be unprepared, not for this. You drove to the Georgia Lottery headquarters on a Thursday afternoon. The attorney drove because you were in no condition to be operating a vehicle. You hadn't eaten much. You hadn't slept much. You'd been existing in this suspended state for 36 hours where nothing felt completely real, but everything demanded you act like it was. You kept thinking about the gas station, about the cashier who handed you those tickets without even looking up. He had no idea. The whole world had no idea. You're riding down I-20 with $20 million in a Ziploc bag, and there's a guy on the corner eating a hot dog, and the city is just going about its entire business like nothing is happening. And you thought, this is how the world works, isn't it? The biggest moments of your life are invisible to everyone else. They don't feel like big moments from the outside. They just look like a man in a car. You sat in the parking lot for a moment before getting out. Just sat there. The attorney waited without saying anything, which you appreciated more than you could have told him in that moment. Sometimes the most useful thing another person can do is just be quiet and let you breathe. You want to be honest about something. You had an image in your head of what this moment was going to look like. Confetti maybe, a giant check, someone shaking your hand in front of a camera, some kind of ceremony that matched the size of what was happening. What you actually got was a waiting room that smelled like printer toner and a receptionist who asked for your ID the same way the DMV does. She looked at the ticket, typed something into her computer, picked up her phone and spoke quietly to someone, and then she told you, very calmly, very professionally, that someone would be with you shortly. That was it. That was the fanfare. Someone will be with you shortly. You almost laughed again. She ran the ticket through the machine. You watched it go in. You watched the machine do whatever machines do. And in the 10 seconds it took, and you know this is going to sound absurd given everything, you became completely certain it was going to fail, that the machine was going to come back with an error, that some fine print you hadn't read was going to disqualify everything. 10 seconds felt like standing at the edge of something very tall and not knowing if the ground was where you thought it was. Sir, I'm pleased to confirm you hold the winning ticket for the October 14th Mega Millions drawing. The prize amount is $20 million. She said it the way someone reads a weather report, professionally, evenly. And you sat across from her and felt something you still don't have a perfect word for. It wasn't joy exactly, not right then. It wasn't relief. It was more like arrival, like you'd been walking somewhere for a very long time without knowing you were walking anywhere, and you had just gotten there. Okay, what do we do next? The official explained the two payout options. The annuity, which pays out the full $20 million over 29 years, or the lump sum, which comes out to significantly less after taxes, but is all at once. The attorney and you had already talked about this in detail. The answer was the lump sum. After federal and state taxes, you were looking at somewhere around $7 million deposited into the trust account. $7 million, not 20. And you know what? You didn't feel cheated. You want to be clear about that. $7 million, real money, your money in an account, was not a disappointment. It was incomprehensible. You couldn't even build the image of it in your mind. $11.83. That's where you started that week. $11.83. And now you were signing paperwork for $7 million. You finish his signing, the official collects the documents. The attorney shakes hands with the official. Everything is calm. Everything is orderly. No one in that room made a big deal of it. And honestly, you were grateful for that. You didn't want a big deal. You didn't want cameras or noise. You wanted exactly what you got. A quiet room and the right information and someone making sure you didn't make a mistake you couldn't undo. You stood outside the Georgia Lottery building on a Thursday afternoon and you tried to feel the size of what had just happened. But the thing about big moments is that they don't come with music. Nobody scores your life in real time. A bus went by. Somebody honked on the street. A bird landed on a parking meter about 6 feet from you and looked at you with no interest at all. The world doesn't stop. It just keeps going, and you have to figure out how to keep going with it. You put your hands in your jacket pockets, look up at the sky. You thought about the cereal you'd eaten that morning, the work boots you were still wearing, the cashier at the gas station who'd handed you those tickets without looking up. You thought about all the versions of that Wednesday where you just bought the water and walked out, where you didn't feel that nudge, where those tickets never existed. You thought about what you were going to do with this, and you already knew. You'd spent 36 sleepless hours thinking about fear and logistics and attorneys and taxes. But underneath all of that, quiet and clear the whole time, you already knew. There were people in your life who were threading the same needle you'd been threading, getting through the week, making it work. And now you had the ability to change what that looked like for them, quietly, carefully, on your own terms. The ticket was gone now, validated, processed. It had done what it was made to do. $6 turned into a trust account. A Wednesday turned into the rest of your life. You drove home the long way, past the gas station, past the grocery store, through the neighborhood where you grew up, and you let yourself feel it. Just for those 20 minutes in the car, with no attorney, no paperwork, no next steps, just you in Atlanta and $7 million sitting somewhere with your name on it. It felt exactly as strange and exactly as right as you'd imagine it would. You never returned to the overnight shift. You checked your bank account the next morning out of habit before you remembered you didn't have to. The cashier at the gas station never found out. The bird on the parking meter was unbothered. If you watched this all the way to the end, thank you. For real. These videos exist because the stories that matter most are the quiet ones. The ones that start ordinary. A Wednesday, a water bottle. $6 you almost didn't spend. Check your pockets. We're out.